tonight's ceremony, in which Captain Stephen Antcliff will be relieved by Captain Eric Sager. This ceremony is steeped in naval heritage, customs, and traditions, including rendering honors to members of the official party as they arrive and depart. You will witness side-boys, bells, and piping aboard. You can find more about the history of the ceremony in the programs provided. Military guests in uniform, you should remain uncovered for the duration of the ceremony and need not salute during honors, parading of colors, and playing of the national anthem. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of our distinguished guests here with us today, our commodores, major commanders, and the commanding officers of our waterfront units, and the shore commands as well. And a very special welcome to both the Captain Antcliff and Captain Sager families. We are honored for your presence. Guests, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing until the complete.
Side boys, left or right? Face.
Captain, United States Navy, arriving. Naval Submarine School, arriving. Captain, United States Navy retired, arriving. Submarine Learning Center, arriving. Bosun, retire the side boys.
Retire the side boys aye. Side boys, left or right?
Colors. Ready. Right. Over. March.
And salute.
Mark time. March. Color guard. Halt. Left. Face.
Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Read, right. Colors. Retire the colors aye, sir. Harry. Colors. Ready. Cut. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Ready? Two.
We celebrate the age-old rite of passage by which continuity of U.S. Naval Command is secured and maintained. Inspire us with your wisdom, that we may appreciate that power is your gift, and that the true nature of command and authority is to serve others. We thank you that the spirit of fairness and dedication to duty will be Captain Stephen Antcliff's legacy with Naval Submarine School Groton leadership. And may you always be with him, his wife Jen, son Drew, along with daughters Lainey and Alice, as he now moves on to new opportunities as commanding officer at Submarine Learning Center Groton. We also ask your support and guidance for Captain Eric Sager, as he now assumes responsibilities of Naval Submarine School Groton Command. May he always feel a sense of confidence and assurance from you as he builds upon the accomplishments of his predecessor. Guide and protect him always so that justice and peace may continue to be served both here at home and around the world. Be also with his wife Laura, son Drew, and daughter Sydney, that they may always be at Captain Sager's side to offer support and encouragement. We now call upon you, O God, with thanksgiving, to bless this ceremony of change of command. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. In 1983, and then later was commissioned in 1989. His sea tours culminated with the commanding officers of USS Miami and USS Columbia. His shore tours included the Deputy Commander for Training at Squadron 7, Director at OSD's Test and Evaluation Branch, and the Commanding Officer of Naval Station Newport. Following his retirement, he continues to support the submarine force here at Naval Submarine School as the subject matter expert, also known as Graybeard. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Retired Dennis Boyer.
Well, sweet Jesus, good morning. Thank you for joining me here at the Dealey Center for this very special event. As you all know, we're gathered here today to celebrate the time-honored tradition of the change of command, where responsibility, authority, and accountability passes seamlessly from one highly capable commander to the next. But before I go further in my remarks, I'd like to discuss briefly the history behind this facility here and, quite frankly, its namesake, Commander Sam Dealey. As you all probably know, he was a Medal of Honor winner based on his patrol efforts in his 5th wartime patrol for USS Harder. And as we talk about submarine leadership and success, I want to talk briefly about what he was able to accomplish. Specifically, here's the Medal of Honor citation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty as commanding officer USS Harder during her 5th war patrol in Japanese-controlled waters. Floodlighted by a bright moon disclosed to an enemy destroyer escort, which bore down with the intent to attack, Commander Dealey quickly dived to periscope depth and waited for the pursuer to close range, then opened fire, sending the target and all aboard down in flames with his 3rd torpedo. Plunging deep to avoid fierce depth charges, he again surfaced and within 9 minutes after sighting another destroyer, had sent the enemy down tail first with a hit directly amidship. Evading detection, he penetrated the confined waters off Tawi-Tawi with the Japanese fleet base 6 miles away and scored death blows on 2 patrolling destroyers in quick succession. With his ship heeled over by concussion from the first exploding target and the second vessel nosediving in a blinding detonation, he cleared the area at high speed. Sighted by a large hostile fleet force on the following day, he swung his bow toward the lead destroyer for another down-the-throat shot, fired 3 bow tubes, and promptly crash dived to be terrifically rocked seconds later by the exploding ship as the Harder passed beneath. This remarkable record of 5 vital Japanese destroyers sunk in 5 short-range torpedo attacks attests the valiant fighting spirit of Commander Dealey and his indomitable command. Now I'll just say that it's important that we remember the gallant efforts of those submarine leaders that preceded us, especially on a day such as today, where we have the distinct pleasure of recognizing the accomplishments of two fantastic submarine warriors. Thanks, XO, for that introduction, and I appreciate being able to take part in this time-honored tradition, recognizing Naval Submarine School's accomplishment under Steve's leadership, and I look forward to your continued success. This morning, I'd like to welcome Commodores Matt Boland and John Stafford, Captain Wayne Grescott, Captain Brian Sitlow, Captain Ken Curtin, and Ken, I got to tell you, as a former base CO, I feel your pain, and I practiced this speech enough to know that I can get under 2 hours easy. Captain Catherine Soap, and Captain Jason Dykler. Hey, thanks for all making the time to attend. I always say sailors will recognize something's important if you give it time or money, and we don't have a lot of money, so I appreciate your time this morning. Now, Navy regulations underpinned by centuries of naval customs and traditions direct the ceremony be formally conducted in the presence of as many commands personnel as can be assembled. And the hard work and dedication of submarine school's impressive staff is on display here today, as it is every day. And I believe I can speak for everyone in saying how proud we are of your efforts. Your leadership, mentoring, teaching, all underwritten by your dedication, is key to the school's ability to send motivated sailors to the fleet ready to stand watch. Our legacy is defined really by a long list of great accomplishments of sailors throughout our proud history. And we should never lose sight of the fact that it is indeed these sailors who give us our greatest competitive advantage. I want to personally thank each of you for your dedication and your efforts. Now, I would like to spend a few moments recognizing some special guests, some families, friends, and mentors here with us today. I'm sure all would agree our families are such an important component of naval service. By providing a stable foundation at home, our families provide us the ability to focus on our Navy's mission. And so at every opportunity, I believe it's important to express our gratitude for what you do each day and every day in support of our submarine force. Now, from Captain Sager's family, Maura, it's great to have you here today. Welcome also to daughter Sydney and son Drew. Thank you for your support, your continued support of Eric. Captain Steve Gillespie, he is a special friend and mentor to Eric, fellow former commanding officer and submarine warrior. It's great to have you back in Groton today. Now, lastly but not least, we're also honored to have with us today Captain Antcliff's wife, Jen. Jen's great to have you today. And I also want to welcome your daughters, Allie and Lainey. My, have you grown. Steve and Jen, no doubt your son Drew would love to be here. Of course, he's doing his part on board USS John Warner. Also like to welcome Captain Antcliff's sister Jill and her husband Mike, traveling from Michigan to be with us today. It's a great example of the support you give Steve over the years. Now, back to Jen, the core strength of the family. It's not lost to me that Jen managed to keep things together through the years as Steve served on 5 different fast attack submarines, preparing for and conducting numerous deployments, including essentially 3 deployments on USS Virginia. Now, while ashore over the years, Steve served as a Force Radcon officer, assistant Force Nuke, and he worked tirelessly in the classroom and at sea teaching our future submarine force leaders, serving as the prospective commanding officer instructor. And finally, dedicated so much of his time and effort leading our submarine school these past 2 years. I think everyone would agree with me that Steve didn't choose the easiest shore tours. So Jen, I can't possibly thank you enough for your service and sacrifice as a Navy spouse. I often say that the family readiness directly contributes to our operational readiness, and that a stronger family means a stronger fleet. And your support of Steve is precisely what I mean when I say this. How about a round of applause, if you would, for Jen, Maura, and all of our Navy families. Now, some of you all know me pretty well, others may not, so I'll just tell you, I'm a bit of a philosopher. I like to talk about things about leadership and success in life, right? That's kind of how I think about things. And this is kind of relevant when you start thinking about the success and the leadership that Steve Antcliff's given us this past couple of years, and what I anticipate we'll get from Captain Sager. Now, quite frankly, I came up with my own personal definitions of leadership and success about 25 plus years ago. When I was a ROTC instructor at the University of Virginia, I had time to be more philosophical. So let me give you a couple definitions, and again, this kind of sets the framework for what I'm going to talk about today. So me personally, my definition of leadership is how to get people to do what they ought to want to do. Now, I think when you listen to that again, how do you get people to do what they ought to want to do, that certainly implies there's some teaching, there's some learning that has to happen. right? Our sailors need to know they ought to want to do it. And that's sort of attests the importance of the leadership, the right kind of leadership that we need here at Naval Submarine School. And my definition of success, basically, it's having options and being a decision maker. Now, I use this philosophy over the last 25 plus years to sort of guide me through every interaction I had with personnel, from my bosses to my peers to my subordinates. And that definitely paid off. I'm going to tell you, as an example, it was about 13 years ago when then Lieutenant Commander Steve Antcliff reported aboard my ship as the XO. As a captain, I was a bit concerned with getting a brand new XO during my last major availability before leaving on deployment. But wow, did I get lucky. The ship got lucky. I quickly recognized the talent, the knowledge, skills, and ability that Steve brought to the good ship Miami. And Miami was in a much better place once he took over as XO. And now, fast forward to May of 2020, and it's me reporting to Steve's command as his graybeard. Yep, now he's my boss. I'm so glad that I was able to establish a good relationship and don't burn any personal bridges. The lesson, treat others as you would want to be treated. And that'll come back again when I talk about Steve's accomplishments here in command. Now, everyone knows the Navy's mission is relentless, especially during this challenging time, and the American people will continue to rely on us to defend them from harm and protect our national interests around the world. The responsibilities of our Naval Submarine School are absolutely essential and foundational to our wider mission of providing sailors to our submarines and helping our submarines become combat-ready ships with battle-minded crews that are truly resolute, ready, and lethal. Steve, you should be immensely proud of what you did here. First and foremost, you adeptly managed the daily lives of, on average, 2,100 officers and sailors assigned to your command, including 1,700 students. That's right. On average, every day there's about 1,700 students assigned to Naval Submarine School. And you did this through a clear, focused effort, ensuring our students were ready to learn, and then making sure they did learn. Now, as you and I chatted over the past couple of years, the complexity of your job was eye-opening. Making sure there were enough rooms available, even making sure we had enough pillows for our sailors. That had your attention, and it's quite amazing. Now, of course, if your ability to work with others, don't burn any personal bridges, inside and outside the lifelines and NetSea, to include the leadership here on base, was really the key to our success in caring for the students. And it should be said, managing the logistics associated with so many students, simply not complicated enough for the average, for Steve, right? We had to throw in the varying COVID requirements just to make it interesting. Well done. Second, Steve, I applaud your work in leading the effort to reduce training backlogs, getting sailors to the fleet. Now, sometimes you get to make choices when you choose the best option of many good options. Those, quite frankly, are pretty easy decisions. Often, though, you were challenged with having to choose among many not so good options. Having to choose the least worst option, if you would. And for example, getting our sonar sailors back to the fleet where they are needed with the right skill set is no easy task. And no doubt you provided a lot of input from other leaders in our submarine force. And I know, all of us former commanding officers know, it's lonely at the top. But as a man in the arena, you stepped up and delivered a workable solution, no doubt benefiting the entire submarine force. And next, you managed to spend time with our tactical teams, those students in our submarine officer basic course, our submarine officer advanced course, our submarine commander's course, as well as with the crews here at Homeport in Groton. And I would argue you gave the best mentoring and tactical advice. No question, your previous experience and drive as a submarine warrior helped our teams be better prepared. And your drive to carve out time to be involved is a clear indication of the importance you place on their readiness. And finally, you led our team as we managed a variety of maintenance challenges, helping ensure the school was ready to support. And that in itself is no easy task. The complexity of the various systems needed to run our trainers, that's all the trainers, is daunting. And of course, your knowledge, skills, and abilities help provide the confidence you exhibited in leading our teams here, making sure we had what was needed to support the sailors and ultimately our submarines. Well done. Now, Captain Sager, welcome aboard. Your many talents and track record of success have you well prepared for the challenges you'll face here at Sub School. You have proven throughout your career what it means to be operationally excellent. And in fact, your path getting here matches Steve's pretty closely. And with that, I expect the impact you're going to have here is going to benefit the force so very much. Of course, as the Stockdale Award winner from 2017, the Submarine Force recognizes the value you bring as a warrior and as a leader. Thank you for serving. And now let me shift my attention to the Submarine School staff. Congratulations for the many accomplishments over the last 2 years. Under Captain Antcliff's leadership, 70,000 students completed courses here at submarine school. That's right, 70,000. But remember, our work continues. We, the submarine ports, have to be ready to go. Our nation is counting on us. That's the submarine ports to be ready. And while other parts of our Defense Department play key roles, it's up to us to be ready to execute challenging missions in peacetime and in wartime, and managing that transition from peacetime to wartime, which could be a little tricky at times. Remember, we're the ones that the President relies on to help understand what others are doing when they don't realize they're being watched. We're sort of a character check, if you will. We're also the conceal and carry weapon the President has. We can't spend our time waxing philosophically about how to win a battle. We actually have to win. And as a training staff, by being technically competent, tactically savvy, and relentless in our pursuit of excellence, we here at Naval Submarine School, we can help our submarine force be that lethal force that is so much needed. Now, in conclusion, Steve and Jen, the Navy Nation are certainly grateful for your leadership. Fantastic job. Please accept my personal thanks for all you have done here in Groton. Now, of course, we'll continue to benefit from your dedication as you take charge of Submarine Learning Center next month. And Eric, I'm immensely proud of all your accomplishments, and I'm so excited to see what the future holds for you and for us here at Naval Submarine School. That's all I got. Giddy up.
Captain Hottishall and Captain Antcliff, request you to center stage for the board's presentation. Guests, please stand for the awards presentation. Attention to award. The President of the United States takes great pleasure in presenting the Legion of Merit Gold Star in lieu of second award to Captain Stephen W. Antcliff, United States Navy, for service set forth in the following citation: for exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding service as commanding officer at Naval Submarine School from January 2020 to January 2022. Demonstrating exceptional leadership and managerial ability, Captain Antcliff superbly led a staff of over 400 personnel in delivering of highly qualified, trained sailors and students to the fleet. With a focus on initial accession enlisted students, he implemented character development training for his staff in order for them to ensure young sailors are more resilient and develop a warrior toughness mindset. He reorganized the staff to balance the teaching workload among subject matter experts and to improve instructor proficiency development and staff efficiency in anticipation for a forecasted increase in student population. Additionally, he drove much needed improvement in 10 training sites on 2 separate naval bases, raising the standards of training and developing staff spaces that are ready for training a professional fighting force. By his dynamic direction, keen judgment, and loyal devotion to duty, Captain Antcliff reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Signed for the President, John B. Knoll, Vice Admiral, United States Navy.
Yeah.
Guests, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Stephen Antcliff, Commanding Officer, Naval Submarine School.
It's funny how whenever you practice a speech, it always goes better and you're a lot less nervous, right? So I'll apologize up front if I'm a little bit off on that. I want to start by thanking Dennis for agreeing to speak today. He's been, my tour on Miami was a highlight to my career as an officer, really developed me as a leader. My first conversation with Dennis literally was, he said, I want you to run the ship, and I'll tell you if I don't like what you're doing. And as XO, that's like the best direction you can get, is kind of run with things and then let me do things. And he really lived up to that. He let me run the ship. And one of my favorite quotes from him, which those of you who have served on a submarine role like, is he would always tell me, when he wanted to guide me, rather than come out and say, I want you to do this, or, give me direction, what he would do is say, the best XO I ever knew did it this way, right? And I very quickly figured out that meant that's what he did as XO, right? So, but it was always good advice, and even when he gave that advice, he still allowed me to do it my way if I chose to do something different, which was phenomenal and prepared me for for both Command at Sea and in this job in a lot of ways, because he empowered people to do things well, as opposed to telling them how to do it. And hopefully I've followed that mentorship. I also want to thank Captain Ottershell, fellow commanders, family, friends, shipmates. I want to thank all of you for coming here and braving cold January weather to celebrate a long-standing naval tradition. I also want to thank XO. Thank you for being master of ceremonies. For those of you who haven't been in the Navy, being the XO is kind of like being the right-hand man for the captain. All of the jobs I don't want to do, he has to make sure happen. All of the things I don't want to take care of, hey XO, can you make this happen? And Carl had the added disadvantage of having been my navigator when I was the CEO of Virginia. So this is the second time he's had to be that guy that I leaned on pretty hard to make good things happen. And we talk in my remarks about some of the challenges sub-school faced. It wasn't an easy job being XO sub-school. I would say he probably had the most challenging XO tour of any XO sub-school. And I argue with anybody that wants to contradict me on that. And if the XO is the right-hand man, I would say the Command Master Chief is definitely the left-hand man for a major commander, because there's so many things that have to happen on the deck plate that you cannot be personally involved in the lives of 2,100 people that work for you, but you still have to take care of them. And the Chief's quarters and the Master Chiefs that worked for me and my CMC, both of my CMCs that I had work for me, were phenomenal at not just giving me advice, but occasionally shut the door and say, hey, Captain, I think you really haven't heard what I said. This is why I think it's important that we do things a little differently than what you said just a minute ago. And give me the opportunity to either tell them why I was making the decision I made, or help mentor me or guide me to a decision that was better for the deck plate. And listening to them was one of the smartest things I did in command. And so thank you both for putting up with all my crazy ideas for the last few years, letting me go off on a tangent and then bringing me back to the center and making sure that what I did actually made sense. I want to take a moment, it's a little bit off script because I forgot. I want to thank the Navy Band for playing today. Thank you guys. It's always great to have you, and definitely appreciate your efforts. Thank you to the Silver Dolphins, who after today will no longer work for me, but over the past 2 years, especially with the challenges of COVID, have been instrumental in making sure that people in the region have that support for color guards for different events and ceremonies. And they did it all despite COVID challenges, despite restrictions placed on how and what they could do afterwards. They went and showed what submarine force can do and what young sailors are accomplishing across the Navy. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Those of you who know me well know that I get a little emotional when I start thanking people for things, which is kind of funny because I'm pretty well known for being a stoic. So I've kept the rest of these remarks and thank you pretty short. Doesn't mean there's not tons of people in this room that I would want to personally thank for the hard work that went into it, but I also wanted to keep the speech under 2 hours, as Dennis said. So I want to thank my wife Jen, my daughters Lainey and Alice for their support throughout this tour and my entire Navy career. Thank you Jill and Mike, my sister, and my brother-in-law who traveled all the way from Michigan to be here for this today, as well as Wendy and John Grimes, who traveled from Virginia to be here today. They've been friends and shipmates of mine since Virginia when I was stationed there as a JO. I really appreciate you guys making the trip today for this. I also see a lot of friends in this room that are past tours, brothers in arms, shipmates, and people who've helped me reach this moment or helped me get through my last 2 years. And again, I couldn't list all of you, but I thank you for all your support. Now, there's a traditional joke that I've heard probably 50% of the changes of command that I've been to that goes something like, I asked my wife what I should talk about today, and she responded with about 5 minutes. I probably will exceed 5 minutes, but I promise to keep it short. And those of you who know me well are probably glad to hear that, because I can get a little long-winded at times. When I took command of sub-school 2 years ago, I did some time and I reflected on the history of sub-school. In 1916, Naval Submarine Base in London and Submarine School were founded. In fact, the first official CO of sub-school was jointly the base CO. In my office, there's actually a photo of the first class of officers of sub-school. That first class of submarine officers learned the technology of a ship and a vessel that had never been operated before by Navy personnel to do a mission that hadn't been figured out yet. We had purchased a submarine and really didn't know what we were going to use it for, and no one, even the officers in this class, initially had any idea of the complexities of this machine that operated under the ocean. Now, I do want to dispel a rumor that's kind of been circulating the last few weeks, which is that I'm not actually in that photo. All right? One of my favorite quotes in submarine history was spoken by the CEO of USS Wahoo, Mush Morton, to his then XO, Dick O'Kane. Tenacity. Stay with the bastard till he's on the bottom. I have often used this quote when speaking of the importance of tenacity in submarine operations. It speaks to the challenges faced by our submarine crews operating alone and unafraid in hostile areas, submerged and undetected. Areas where the cost of failure is high, And in these moments, the tenacity of a submarine crew creates innovative solutions to complex problems to allow the mission to be accomplished. The dogged determination to overcome, to succeed, to never quit is the hallmark of sailors who spend their lives beneath the sea. And it's long been one of the tenets that I have enforced with everyone who's ever worked for me. Now, the staff and students at submarine school taught me a lot about tenacity over the past 24 months. And I'll apologize up front, I did not read Dennis's speech before this, and so it may sound a little bit repetitive because I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of the accomplishments that sub-school accomplished in my name. But the challenge of COVID occurred within 8 weeks of my taking command. So I took command almost 2 years to the day in January of 2020. And on March 13th, essentially the world changed and the COVID orders started being issued, restricting our movements, what we could do, and how we could train. The tenacity of this team kept the schoolhouse open, kept graduating sailors to man the fleet, while the nation teleworked or stayed home in response to the pandemic. Sub-school never stopped training sailors or preparing submarine crews for deployed operations, even at the height of the pandemic. Their tenacity resulted in the graduation of over 70,000 students across over 128 different courses of instruction and awarded over 87 NECs. But just staying open wasn't enough for these amazing sailors who worked for me. Within days of the announced restriction of movement orders that made students restricted to the base and staff personnel restricted to essential stops only while driving to and from work, this team found a way to safely reopen the gym on base and the Liberty Center initially in order for our students to have something to do to maintain their mental and physical well-being while they were locked on the base. They did this through creative solutions, watch bills, and manning those actual facilities so that students can use them, in addition to their normal work days. My medical staff and high-risk training instructors found ways to do things as creative as sanitized firefighting gear and submarine escape suits in order to allow full damage control training to occur even before there was a vaccine. Their efforts allowed sailors reporting to the fleet to be prepared to respond to any potential hazards associated with submarine operations, and were actually shared across learning sites throughout our Navy and other navies with similar facilities to allow them to get back to training sailors where they had actually stopped before them. They relentlessly managed normal student routines mixed with COVID protocols that included the care and feeding for as many as 220 sailors restricted in movement or quarantined at any given time. That including delivering 3 meals a day to those sailors, as well as checking on them every week multiple times to make sure that they were doing well, in addition to their normal workload. Tenacity and resolve drove them not just to remain open, but to continue to develop ways to improve training quality and graduation rates. They organized and managed facility upgrades, overcoming COVID travel restrictions and health protocols to continue the path of upgrading our critical computer systems, trainer technology, and to conduct needed repairs and overhauls to facilities that span 9 different buildings. To overcome fleet manning shortfalls, sub-school grew from approximately 1,400 students when I took command to almost 1,900 students at our largest capacity over the past 2 years. In critical technical ratings, they found ways to increase the number of convenings and maximize the efficiency of training to increase our throughput by as much as 140%, despite capacity limitations and facility limitations. Meanwhile, they prepared submarine crews for deployed operations in every theater available for pre-deployment training, scheduled courses, and responsive trainer support to improve performance of teams that were struggling. Tenacity and resolve enabled the execution of sub-school's core mission areas, produced graduates for the fleet to man our submarines, and prepare submarines for deployed operations. I was inspired by the sub-school team every day of my command tour. Another great commanding officer, Gene Fluckey, wrote in his wartime biography, Thunder Below, discussing his exploits at command of USS Barr, "What wordy praise can one give to sailors such as these? Sailors who, without the information known to their captain, follow unhesitantly when in the vicinity of minefields, as long as there is hope for targets to engage. Sailors who flinch not when the thermometer ticks off the fathoms beneath the keel. Sailors who will fight to the last bullet and then want to throw the empty shell casings at the enemy. These sailors are true submariners." I was equally blessed to have worked with true submariners while in command of Naval Submarine School. It has been an honor to command such amazing sailors. Thank you for being with today as I turn over the command of these submarine warriors to my good friend, Captain Eric Sager, who I know will continue to lead them to success. Thank you.
Captain Antcliff, request you center stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Master Chief Aaron Lee and Commander Andy McGovern will now present a joint gift from the Wardroom in Chief's Quarters. Sir, this small sea chest, which has been handcrafted from cedar with your name, the command, a short pin, submarine dolphins, and naval submarine school inscribed. Please accept this gift as a token of appreciation for the leadership and mentorship that you have provided all of us here at the Naval Submarine School. Please read the orders.
I shall now read my orders. From the Chief of Navy Personnel to Captain Steve Antcliff. Subject, Viewpers Orders 2281. When directed by Reporting Senior, detach in January of 2022 from duty as Commanding Officer of Naval Submarine School and report to the Submarine Learning Center for duty as Commanding Officer. Captain Sager, I am ready to be relieved.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Eric Sager, Prospective Commanding Officer, Naval Submarine School.
I will now read my orders. From the Chief of Naval Personnel to Captain Eric Sager, Viewpers Orders number 2291. When directed by Reporting Senior, report on January 2022 to the Commanding Officer, Naval Submarine School for duty as his relief. Captain Antcliff, I'm ready to relieve you.
Say relieved.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Eric Sager, Commanding Officer, Naval Submarine School.
Thank you. Good morning, Commodores, fellow Major Commanders, Captains, sub-school staff and students, friends and family of the Submarine Force. First, let me start by saying, Dennis, I appreciate your remarks. It really brings me chills to hear of our history and heritage, and nothing more inspiring than hearing of the submarine warriors that came before us, certainly those Medal of Honor recipients, so thanks. It's really an honor for me to share the stage today up here with two great friends and naval officers, Steve and Jack. Jack's been my friend and mentor for several years. First met when I was in command of California, and Jack was my squadron deputy. Jack, I appreciate all the support you gave me then to get to this point. Congratulations on your upcoming change of command. I know you and Diane are going to really enjoy being up in Boston and all the championship-winning sports teams there. Steve and I served closely together several times throughout our career. First on the waterfront when I had the pleasure of taking command of California, and in fact Steve drove by in what was probably the coldest day of April in 2015 during my change of command. And he was already in command of Virginia, a seasoned commanding officer, and I learned a ton from him then and continue to learn a ton from him now. We went on to serve together as the submarine command course instructors, where we had the pleasure of teaching our future commanding officers. Steve, it's been a real honor following in your footsteps. I really congratulate you for all the outstanding work you and Jen have done throughout your tour here at Sub School. I look forward to picking up where you left off. I'd like to take the time to thank several of my mentors and friends over the years, too many to name, so I'll just name the most significant one, Captain Steve Gillespie. As Dennis mentioned, Steve was my CO when I was the engineer on USS Rhode Island. Steve, thanks for all that you and Becca have done for me, Maura, and Sydney, and Drew throughout the years. You've really shown me what it means to be a great commanding officer. Thanks. I have a lot of local friends in the audience. I really appreciate all of you being here. It means a ton to Maura and I to be able to share this event for you. So many of you have dedicated your lives to service as first responders, firefighters, and police officers. I'd like to take just a moment to pause from the change of command and thank you for all you do for our community and our nation. Morris, Sydney, and Drew, thanks for your love and support. Sid and Drew, I'm extremely proud of the outstanding young people you've become. Keep reaching for the stars. Maura, thanks for always being there and your unyielding support. You're the most selfless person I know. You're truly a model military spouse. Thanks. I love you. To my sub-school students, you are entering or returning to our force at a pivotal time where we face the challenge of being prepared for combat operations against two adversaries, China and Russia. My staff stands ready to support you, but you are responsible, you are accountable for your own preparations. You must work hard and answer the call if our nation's to remain successful against these competitors. Giddy up. Sub-school staff, I'm impressed by your professionalism. I'm excited to be joining such a top-notch team. I look forward to leading you as we train and certify the students and the force for deployed submarine force operations. Our #1 priority, operations in combat. The standard we set here establishes the foundation upon which our boat commanding officers will develop their teams. I challenge you to raise the bar as we reach for new heights. Hoo-yah, sub-school. Thank you very much.
Guests, please stand for the benediction. Remain standing for the departure.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we reflect upon your sovereignty as we conclude this ceremony of change of command. We have just witnessed the reading of orders, along with the transfer of power and authority from one able leader to another. We ask your strength and insight to all among us who command and lead, and to the families who support them. We give thanks for the successes of Captain Antcliff as we now send them off with our highest regards for his next appointed duty assignment. We also give thanks for the leadership of Captain Sager, and that your will through him be done here in our community, our nation, and throughout the world. And now, as we depart this time and place, we ask that your presence, grace, and wisdom always abound, and that they continue to sustain our lives, as well as those of our leaders. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Post the side boys.
Post the side boys eye. Side boys, cover. 2. Side boys, left or right. Face.
Submarine Learning Center. Departing. Captain, United States Navy retired. Departing. Captain, United States Navy. Departing. Naval Submarine School. Departing. Bosun, retire the side boys.
Retire the side boys eye. Side boys, left or right. Face. Post.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Captain Sager and Captain Antcliff cordially invite you to a reception being held at Bledsoe Hall Auditorium. Thank you for joining us and have a great Navy Day.